Hello, dear lovers of stories. Imagine, in today's tale, a young woman lost in a world where it seems there's no place for her, caught between the pain of the past and the fear of the future. Let's meet Sophia, a young woman who never imagined that love could strike her life like lightning in the middle of a storm, changing everything she knew. And what if the only man who could save her was torn between loyalty to a friend and the desire to follow his own heart? Join me as we dive into today's chapter. Sophia was the daughter of a powerful man, Duke Enrique of Montclair. But there was a problem. Sophia was not the daughter of the Duke's marriage, and because of this, her father's family never truly accepted her. Her stepmother, Lady Veronica, and her half-siblings treated her poorly, constantly reminding her that she didn't belong. To them, Sophia was a constant reminder of the Duke's past mistakes. Sophia's mother, who was a lady of the court, passed away when she was only 5 years old. From that moment on, Sophia's life became even more difficult. But her father, who loved her dearly and felt immense sorrow over the loss of the woman he truly loved, decided to bring Sophia home. He believed that, despite his wife's cold treatment, it was safer for Sophia to stay with him than to be left in an orphanage. Even though he loved his daughter, the Duke was a very busy man and couldn't protect her from the cruelties of her stepmother and half-siblings. Growing up in the vast but unwelcoming halls of Montclair, Sophia became accustomed to the whispers and disdainful glances. She often found solace in the quiet corners of the library, where she could escape the harsh reality of her life. Sophia loved to lose herself in books and stories about distant lands. Even though she was not a legitimate daughter, she received a good education, but her tutors, who taught noble children, treated her with a rigid and cold manner, as if she were inferior. Duke Enrique, her father, was a man who managed his business and territories well, but when it came to his family, he was different. Always absent from home, he paid little attention to what his children were doing. Little did he know that this lack of control would cost him dearly, especially when it came to Sophia, his beloved daughter. The Duke's eldest son, also named Enrique, had a serious problem. He was addicted to gambling and accumulated many debts. Over time, his creditors became increasingly impatient and aggressive. The Duke, oblivious to all this, didn't perceive the growing danger his family was facing. Among the creditors was the cruel Duke Ricardo of Darud, a greedy man who grew more and more irritated with young Enrique's failure to pay. Ricardo, knowing that the Duke of Montclair was a very wealthy man who valued his family, decided to take action. He ordered his men to raid the Duke's estate at night and bring young Enrique to him for payment. But Ricardo made it clear, if they couldn't find Enrique, any other family member would suffice. Ricardo's men infiltrated the estate under the cover of night, intending to capture young Enrique and force the payment of the debts he had accumulated. However, instead of finding Enrique, they encountered Sophia, the younger sister, wandering alone in the gardens. Sophia was seeking a brief escape from the heavy atmosphere that hung over her home. Unaware of the impending danger, she was taken by surprise by Ricardo's men, who quickly seized her as a prisoner. Meanwhile, Duke Enrique, her father, completely oblivious to what was unfolding, remained absorbed in his concerns, never suspecting that his daughter was about to be dragged into a terrible situation. Ricardo's men returned to the castle with grim news. They had not captured young Enrique as Ricardo had ordered, but they brought Sophia in his place. Upon hearing this, Ricardo was furious. He knew Sophia was the illegitimate daughter of Duke Enrique, which only irritated him further. This capture was not what he had planned, but with no other option, he decided to deal with the situation in his own way. He ordered that she be taken to the castle's dark and foreboding dungeons. Locked away in that dark and terrifying place, Sophia felt her fear growing with every passing minute. Tears streamed down her face as she tried in vain to understand why she had been taken. Time crawled by, and the darkness around her seemed to suffocate her. Suddenly, a bright light flooded the room. Sophia blinked several times, trying to adjust her eyes to the sudden brightness. When she finally managed to focus, her heart raced as she saw who stood before her, the feared Duke Ricardo of Darud. Ricardo was a tall and imposing man, with a presence that inspired fear. His eyes, cold and cruel, observed Sophia with a mix of interest and superiority. She trembled as she realized she was in the hands of a man known for his cruelty. Frightened and not understanding why she was there, Sophia asked, her voice trembling, "Who are you, and what do you want from me?" Ricardo, in a cold and threatening voice, replied, "I am Ricardo, Duke of Darud. Your brother owes me a great deal of money, and now you are here to ensure that this debt is paid." Sophia, having already heard terrible stories about the Duke, tried to remain calm. "Please," she pleaded, "give me paper and ink. I will write to my father, and he will pay the debt. I just want to go home." But the Duke didn't seem interested in negotiating that way. His penetrating gaze fixed on Sophia only intensified her fear. He didn't see in her just a means to recover his money, but something darker and more possessive. Desperate, Sophia insisted, "I know my father is unaware of this debt. He is a just man, and he will pay for sure." However, her words did not sway Ricardo. He simply ordered his men to lift Sophia. As they raised her, he approached slowly, and Sophia instinctively recoiled, the fear evident in her eyes. Ricardo, with a calm and calculated gesture, brushed the hair from Sophia's face and, in an act that seemed almost gentle, removed his cloak and draped it over her shoulders. "You are very beautiful, did you know?" he said, with a voice that was both sweet and threatening. "Your father is fortunate. With your beauty, he could have forged great alliances." Confused and even more terrified, Sophia asked, "What do you mean? Why are you speaking as if everything has already been decided?" The Duke then smiled, a cold smile that never reached his eyes, and replied, "Your brother's debts are settled. Now, you will be my wife." Sophia, overwhelmed by a wave of anger and indignation, threw Ricardo's cloak to the ground and firmly declared, "I will never marry you. My father would never condemn me to be the wife of a monster." Ricardo, however, maintained his thin, icy smile. "We shall see whether you will be mine or not," he responded, with a chilling calm. Ricardo wasted no time in sending a proposal to Duke Enrique, informing him of Sophia's situation and his decision to make her his wife. Enrique, knowing Ricardo's terrible reputation and desperate to save his daughter, responded quickly. He sent a large sum of gold, begging Ricardo to release Sophia. Enrique could never allow his daughter to be forced into marriage with such a cruel man. Ricardo, upon receiving Duke Enrique's response, decided to act with cunning and calculation. He knew that Sophia was the key to getting what he wanted, but he wasn't willing to let her simply return home. With a dark plan in mind, he ordered that Sophia be removed from the dungeon, bathed, and dressed in elegant clothes. As she was led to the bath, Sophia felt a small glimmer of hope. Perhaps, at last, she was about to be freed. She followed the orders without question, allowing herself to be washed, dressed, and have her hair arranged. With her heart racing, the young woman believed she would soon be back home. However, when she was led into a strange room, with a table set and the doors locked behind her, Sophia felt despair take hold. The environment, though luxurious, was a disguised prison. Shortly after, Ricardo appeared. He emerged from the shadows with a calculated smile on his face. Sophia ran to the door, pounding desperately and begging to be let out, but her pleas were in vain. Ricardo, maintaining his calm demeanor, told her she needed to settle down, as she was not yet free. He explained that the room would be her new home, until things were resolved. He then sent a letter to Duke Enrique, filled with insinuations. In the message, Ricardo claimed that Sophia was fragile and emotionally shaken due to the abduction, suggesting that her reputation was at risk if she wasn't soon taken out of that situation and given to a husband who could protect her. He implied that marriage was the only way to ensure Sophia wouldn't suffer further damage and that a matrimonial alliance was the most suitable solution. Duke Enrique, with few alternatives, found himself pressured to agree. However, he imposed a condition, that a nun be sent to accompany Sophia until the wedding, ensuring her protection and guaranteeing that she would not face further dangers. Ricardo, though frustrated by not having absolute control, was forced to accept the presence of the nun, but he believed his victory was close. Meanwhile, Sophia remained locked in her room, unaware of the plans being made to decide her fate. The presence of the nun, however, brought her a small spark of hope, knowing that she would have someone by her side, even if only as a vigilant companion. Sophia, now betrothed to the Duke, found herself trapped in a gilded cage. Her spirit, once full of life, began to fade under Ricardo's possessive gaze. He tried to win her heart with expensive gifts, glittering jewels, and luxurious dresses, but his aggressive temper and controlling nature only pushed her further away. Each time Sophia rejected him, Ricardo's fury grew, leading to continuous humiliation and suffering for the young woman. The arrival of the newly crowned King Leopold at Darud Castle brought an unexpected twist. Leopold, an old friend of Ricardo, had come to inspect the lands and discuss matters of state, unaware of the torment Sophia was enduring within the castle's dark walls. When Sophia first saw Leopold, even from a distance, she immediately noticed his noble bearing and gentle eyes, a stark contrast to the heavy and oppressive atmosphere of the castle. Leopold, in turn, began to sense that something was amiss in the castle. Sophia's presence, though carefully hidden, would not go unnoticed by him for long. Every gesture she made, every word exchanged, seemed to unravel a bit more of the dark mystery Ricardo was trying to conceal. And so, without knowing exactly what was to come, fate began to conspire to bring an unexpected change to Sophia's life. Continued.